What you see before you is vintage 1974. I'm also a severe asthmatic, meaning I've got about 65% lung function on a good day. Your scenario might be that you're a bit older or you're not very fit and you want something that will help you get fitter and remove that barrier of entry to getting out on a bike. You may have other reasons, but if this resonates with you, in this video I'm going to share with you the 10 reasons why I think the Specialized Turbo Vado SL is the most fantastic fitness e-bike. Let's get cracking. So let's start with the app. So there's so much functionality in this app. So you can check the bike status. I can see that my bike is due for a service in about 17 days time. You can tune it as well. So if you want to adjust the resistance, the help that it gives you, you can adjust what Eco, Sport and Turbo do. I could make a whole video about how good this app is, but one of my favorite features is how it records rides. So if I look at this ride, for instance, I can see the route I took. I went around Rutland Water and it was 22 miles. There was 900 feet of elevation. My average speed was 11.5 miles per hour. And I can look at how much I used. So I used 46% of the battery. So around half the battery, which was pretty impressive considering that elevation gain on this ride. And I can see what I was using. So for some of the ride, the power was off, so I was just riding under my own steam. Next comes Eco, so Eco is the lowest setting, so about nearly 25% of the ride was on Eco. Half of the ride was on the second setting, which is Trail or Sport. And then if I look at the turbo setting here, what's that, maybe 10% or 15% of the ride was on the bike's max power setting. Next is that there's no pretense with this bike. Now, I don't know if this is a UK thing or a global thing, but there's a term here called MAMILs, middle-aged men in Lycra. And it's essentially a group of middle-aged men. They meet in the morning on a Sunday and they're all dressed like retired Power Rangers who have been on back-to-back all-inclusive holidays. One of them's bought a new water bottle and it's $100 and he's happy with it. And they all go off for about 4 or 5 hours. Not the guy that's bought the water bottle. He comes back 20 minutes later. His bike's hanging out the back of his wife's Kia. He's come off. He's concussed. He's being sick into his water bottle. But with this bike, there's just zero pretense. When I'm out on this bike, I'm in the uniform of the dads. I've got my cargo shorts on, which cost me $20 from Amazon. I've got a pair of running shoes on that were quite expensive. They're now worn out, so they're now my grass cutting shoes and my bike riding shoes. And then I've got my free t-shirt that I got from Huel. And that's all I ride in, plus a helmet, of course. Sorry to interrupt the video, it's a glorious day. And the reason for interrupting this video is to say that since making it, I've reached out to Specialized and they've accepted me onto their affiliate program. So that means I'll put a link in the description. If you use that link to go to Specialized website to buy a Vado SL or any other Specialized bike, that link also helps support the channel at no extra cost to you, and it's really appreciated. It does help us out as creators. Back to Steve in the past. The next thing is fitness benefits. And this is something that lots of people who don't understand e-bikes won't quite follow. And they may ask you, why would you buy a super light, so a lighter version e-bike with less power than a full fat e-bike when the prices aren't that much different? Well, if you're interested in fitness, let me show you what I mean. Here's 2 sets of data from my wife and I on a recent ride. So I'm on the left on the Vado SL and she's on a full fat Vado, meaning that I'm getting 2 times the power of me and she's getting 4 times the power of her. And you can see that my average heart rate on this ride is 143 beats a minute. And you can see that I'm working through all the zones, all my fitness zones as I'm riding round. Her heartbeat is a lot lower at 113 beats per minute. And because she had the bike fairly high up on its power zones, her heart rate didn't leave zone 1 at all, really. I mean, a little bit, but mostly she was in zone 1. And that meant that after this ride, I very much felt like I'd done my exercise for the day. However, my wife was sort of feeling like she might have to do a workout just to compensate the fact that she'd been on a 20-mile bike ride and her heart rate hadn't left zone 1. The next thing I want to talk about is handling, and for that I need to show you my other bike. So this bike's just about to go on eBay. Very sad to see it go, but as you can see, it's almost identical to the Vado, except it's not motorized. And the reason I picked this bike is because it handles so well. And that's the same for the Vado SL. It's light, it's nimble, it's really well balanced, and it handles just as well as my other bike, my Cirrus X. In fact, the Vado SL handles so well, I mean that after I've made this video, I'm going to put the other bike on eBay. Now, one thing about some full fat e-bikes is they're really heavy. So once you get over that 15.5 mile an hour speed limit, where in the UK and Europe, the motor cuts out, it's very difficult to maintain a high speed and you really start to feel the bike's weight. Where with this bike, with the motor switched off or above 15.5 miles an hour, I mean, it's just like riding a normal bike. Next are the controls. Now the 5.0 version gets a digital display. Well, I actually prefer this. So when you turn the bike on, the lights are built in. So that's another feature. So the lights are built into the bike, so you never have to worry about your charging them or replacing the batteries. They're all running off of the battery, which is in this down tube here. So the controls are here, and I really like the simplicity. They're your battery bars, so you can see it's got 10 battery bars, and you can turn it on and off here. You can adjust the power, which I perhaps wouldn't do here. I don't, because you need to look away from the roads. I'd really recommend using these handlebar controls instead. So if I put this in shot as well, you can see if I want to reduce the power, I just bring it down. If I want to go up, I can go up. You've also got a walk mode. So if you're starting from on a hill, for instance, you can press the walk mode and the bike will power itself forward to help you get a good start. And on the front of the bike here, the front of this controller, is this button here, which is your max power button. So I'll just try and get everything in shot. So if I take the power all the way off, so I'm just riding like a normal bike, and I hit a hill, I can press this max power button and it just gives me max power straight away. The 240 watt motor in here will give you 2 times U power. Eco is U and a third. So if you imagine you were 33% stronger or powerful on the bike, trail is 66%, so it's U plus 66% power. And then sport is twice your output. And I think it's easy to underestimate how powerful twice your output is. So on my route where there's 1,000 feet of elevation, a couple of the hills, when you go down the other side, you can just roll off the top and you can hit 30 miles an hour. Before you're even halfway down, you have to put on the brakes really just to keep things safe. So as you can imagine, cycling up those hills on a normal bike, for me, they are 10 out of 10 difficulty. So that means I get to the top, I need a rest, and even then I can't enjoy the downhill because I still feel a little bit rough. However, this bike takes those 10 out of 10 hills and it makes them something like a 4 or 5 out of 10 hill. So on max power, I ride to the top. I may or may not stop. If I do stop, it's just for the view and maybe a sip of my drink. And then I'm straight down the other side and I'm really enjoying my bike rides. And the good thing about having that boost button on the bike is that if you unexpectedly come to a hill and you might be in the wrong gear as well, for instance, you can just hit that boost button. You don't need to look away from the terrain that you're riding on, so it's nice and safe. Hit the boost button, the bike will go into max power and give you all the assistance it's got in that moment, and then you can just dial it back down again when you're ready. Another feature I like about this bike is its subtle looks. Now, you can see that there is a motor here and the tube is a bit thicker here for the battery. But other than that, it doesn't have that big bulky feel. It looks very much like a normal bike. And as I've talked about in the handling section, it handles the same way as well. And then finally, we have weight. So this bike weighs 15 kilos, and that means that I can easily pick it up. It's very easy to move around if you need to take on public transport, up a flight of stairs, etc. In my use case scenario, I need a bike that I can easily lift up and then put on top of the car. And this is that bike. If you want to watch my overall review of this bike, then I'll put that video here. I can highly recommend watching it. And I haven't kept this bike standard. So I've made 5 significant changes to this bike just to suit my riding style, and it has made it, in my experience, a more comfortable place to be. And if you want to know what those are, then just click on this video here. Both videos will link into each other so you can watch them all in any order. Until next time, see you soon.